who are back with the greatness that is Dragon Quest. And I gotta say, I can no longer say that unless there's a remake of a remake, but here is my review of Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai. The story follows our main protagonist, Dai, who dreams of becoming a hero. When a long defeated demon returns, Dai sets out with his friends to stop this new threat and learn about his mysterious past along the way. Without spoiling anything, this is a remake of an old anime that released back in 1989, and it is 100% feels like an anime from that era. It follows the shonen blueprint that we have seen throughout shonen anime and manga throughout the years. But do not let that deter you from watching this anime. Even though Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai doesn't do anything groundbreaking by 2022 standards, back in 1989, I'm sure this anime was 100% groundbreaking. What makes Dragon Quest a great shonen is the way it handles its characters and even the villains. By the end of this journey, I absolutely love the main cast, which of course the Go Pop taking the #1 spot, and I even found this character popularity poll, and I got to tell you, disrespect is unacceptable, okay? But I digress. If you're looking for a long anime with 100 episodes, no filler, great story, look no further. Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai will not disappoint. Now, this anime is not perfect. From now on, we will get into spoilers. I'm going to break down what I didn't like in the review and what I did like. #1 of the things I did not like is the death baiting. Two characters come into mind were given the death flag, but typical shonen fashion, those never really led anywhere, with Master Avan being the one that hit the hardest. A lovable character introduced very early on. He died very early, and we found out that he was still alive towards the end of the anime. I feel like he's just shipping his early character arc, and while I love the character and his comeback was super hype, it's just reassured that from that point forward there really wasn't going to be any losses. Now, this is a typical thing in shonen, is not exclusive to Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai, but regardless, this is something that over the 20+ years of me watching anime, I kind of just come to kind of hate, and the fact that I watched this anime in this year, this age, it kind of hits a little bit. Now, the other one, of course, is being her Junko. That took so much damage that every single bone of his body was broken. And that's after taking a powerful attack from one of the strongest characters in the series. And they even talked about how her Junko was not going to be able to fight, but he kept on fighting. He never gave up. Again, this is a really high moment for the character, but it just kind of feels like whenever they were talking about all the damage that he has taken, everything that he has gone through, I literally thought he was going to be in deathbed by the end of the series, but that did not happen. It was just kind of like, you know, thrown away, and they never did anything with that. Another thing that I felt kind of disappointed by is the fact that the series kind of peaked with the Baran arc. Now, don't get it twisted, don't get it wrong. Overall, every arc was really good, but I feel like nothing really came close to the Baran arc. It never came up to that hype level with Pop. Everything that happened in the arc with Dai and his character learning about his past, and everything that happened in this arc just felt so impactful that really not even the final arc with King Varn came close to it. Now, of course, that's just my personal opinion. I'm sure some people liked other arcs more than the Baran arc, but I feel like nothing came close. The Baran arc was definitely a top tier arc. I will put it against some of the best arcs in shonen. Definitely a top tier, but again, nothing else came close to that in my opinion. So it's kind of like one of those things where once you get past the Baran arc, it kind of starts going downhill after that. And when I say downhill, don't take it wrong, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just that once again, it never got to that hype level. And lastly, the final thing that I did not like about Dragon Quest was the ending. The ending was not bad. My only issue was that it left a lot to be desired. They set up a lot of potential endings with certain characters. For example, Pop and Marm and her Junko, they had a little love triangle right there. We also had the whole Dai and Leona, and of course we did get a conclusion to Dai's character, when he sacrificed himself and all of that. And even though they left that a little bit open-ended because they confirmed that Dai is not dead due to his sword and the crystal, but nonetheless, we still left a lot of open threads when it came to the other character. For example, here Junko, once again, noting that whole death baiting thing, right? With all the damage that he took, we see here Junko is fine and dandy. Again, they just kind of shocked that away. We see he's still out adventuring. And then, of course, we also see Pop along with Marm, but we don't know anything about that relationship, right? And then one of the most impactful moments for me in this anime as well was the whole situation with Gomechan. A really sad ending to that character. And we really never saw where that was going to go next. Now, I know a lot of people have been telling me that they plan to go do another arc after this, but you know, due to the mangaka's health, they couldn't do it. And it kind of makes sense because again, it does feel like the ending of this anime left a lot of open loose ends, and just because of that, it was kind of underwhelming. But again, not a bad ending. It's just some of the issues that I had. I really wanted to see the closure for all these characters, and sadly we did not get that. And that's really everything that I did not like about Dragon Quest. Of course, I could start nitpicking stuff, like for example the CGI. Even though the CGI wasn't bad, there were some areas where the CGI kind of looked kind of iffy. Now again, that's not throughout the whole series. It's just a couple spots here and there. Nothing to really talk about, but that's just nitpicking at that point. Now, let's talk about the stuff that I did like. And of course, characters being at the top of the list. More specifically, Pop and Hadlar, which are two of my favorite characters in the series. Again, referring to that popularity poll that I found, I believe it to be complete blasphemous that Pop wasn't even #1 or #2, okay? He is #3. I'm kind of salty about that one, but the character arc for Pop is beautiful. He was guiding the whole team. He was always kind of like, you know, at the beginning, he was a coward, and we see him evolve into that courageous hero that he turned out to be. I mean, Pop, he was leading the party, he was making the strategies, he was literally carrying the team. He might not have been more powerful than Dai, but let's be real, he definitely carried Dragon Quest. Now, of course, the other person that I absolutely loved was Hadlar. You know, a lot of villains in shonen, they tend to be static. They get the motivations very early on, and they really don't change until the very end of that character arc. But with Hadlar, we saw the evolution of his character from very early on. He went from being pure evil, kind of just trying to take over the world and do stuff like that, to actually change his motivation to the point where, you know, he didn't care about doing the whole world domination. He didn't care about being with King Bard. And that whole character growth and evolution that we see with Hadlar definitely puts him at the top. I loved him as a character. I feel like they did him so wrong. I enjoyed Hadlar so much that I really wanted him to switch over to the good guys and kind of stick it to King Vaughn for everything that he put that man through. But yes, those are two of my favorite characters. Of course, that doesn't mean the other characters are bad. They're still great. Her Junko, he went through a lot as well. And heck, even when we talk about some of the other minor characters like Avan, dude, every time he got on screen, funny moment, made me laugh, hilarious. I loved him as a character as well. But for me, I feel like definitely Pop and Hadlar were the ones that stole the show. And let me know in the comments which characters were your favorites when it came to Dragon Quest. The other thing I liked about Dragon Quest, of course, is the fights. Now, with this being a shonen, a very popular demographic when it comes to like anime and manga, we gotta talk about the fights. The fights in this series were absolutely amazing, especially when we talk about some of the top tier fights that happen in the series. When we talk about the Baron fight, everything that happened in the fight, everything that led up to it, all the reveals, and heck, even the fight itself was amazing. Not every fight had the same budget, of course. They all obviously focus on some of the bigger fights, with Baron being one of those really important fights that looked phenomenal throughout the whole fight. And of course, even the King Vaughn fight was amazing. Both scenarios where they were fighting all these villains looked amazing, and some of the other minor fights that, you know, didn't have necessarily a big budget, they were really well done. The pacing of this fight never felt like it dragged on. It was nice. Then we have to talk about the story itself. This journey with Dai becoming a hero had so many unexpected twists and turns that I did not see coming. They were in front of our faces all along. I mean, the reveal of King Vaughn and his body, the way that he split himself into two different things, it was actually a really good little plot twist that I did not see coming, even though it was directly in front of our faces. I mean, they literally named the plot twist, and I still did not see it coming. Then of course we have Gomeshan, a really emotional ending to that character, and it's because he was set up since the very early episodes. I mean, I believe Gomeshan showed up in like episode 1, and he's been with us since the beginning. And when we got the conclusion to that character, it was really emotional, it was really sad. And then they even had a little incorporation into romance in this anime, so it wasn't just a battle shonen, right? They also kind of went into the whole Marm, Pop, and her Junko love triangle. And while we didn't really get a conclusion to that little romance aspect of the story, it was still there. It still had the romance elements. It really had a little bit of everything. It had the comedy, the romance, the battles, and it was really all well put together, and everything made sense. That's really an important thing that I like when it comes to anime and manga, when their story actually makes sense, when you have the ability to go back into earlier episodes and see how it was foreshadowed that that moment is going to connect all the way to the end of the series. And that's exactly what they did with Gomeshan, that once we learn about the ability that Gomeshan can grant wishes, it didn't feel cheap. It didn't feel like it was a Deus Ex Machina coming out of nowhere, because we actually saw that ability at work since earlier episodes, and it was just explained to us all the way at the end. So this really kind of makes it to where if you watch Dragon Quest for a second time, you're going to see all these little context clues, you're going to see all these being foreshadowed, and it's going to make a lot more sense on the second watch through. Overall, Dragon Quest The Adventure of Dai is a solid anime with great pacing, no filler, super hype moments. Overall, I will rate Dragon Quest The Adventure of Dai an 8.5 out of 10. So if you're still on the fence on watching this one, but love stuff like Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, Fairy Tail, Black Clover, you know, those big shonen anime that are very, very popular, then definitely give this one a chance. You will not be disappointed. But like always, let me know what you thought of this anime in the comments down below. What would you rate it? Like always, I will see you on the next episode. Peace out. Oh.